We welcome you, especially our graduates and your family and friends, to our pinning and candlelight ceremony for our spring graduating class of Ameritech College. Today's a great day. This is a day that we look forward to, and I'm sure you have as well for quite some time. This is the culmination of a lot of work. And we understand that as nursing faculty, and we applaud you for all that you've accomplished. Today, this is our pinning and candlelight ceremony, and quite often we get asked exactly what is a pinning and candlelighting ceremony. So I'm going to take just a moment to talk a little bit about the pinning portion of the ceremony, and then we'll discuss candlelighting. Our faculty speaker will discuss that subject. So pinning, it begins with, if those of you who can see, we have a picture here of Florence Nightingale. So it goes all the way back to Florence Nightingale, a school in London in the 1860s. She began the pinning ceremony. But in truth, pinning goes back much later than that. The original story of the pinning goes all the way back to the 12th century, during a time that was called the Crusades. This was a time of lengthy and bloody battles, and there were many who were seriously wounded. So of these wounded soldiers, there was a group, and they were called the Knights of the Order. And the Knights of the Order were so grateful for anybody who helped them during that time in the Crusades that they decided for the rest of their lives they would take a vow to serve others. And one of their vows was to tend to the ill and the wounded. Each of the knights took an actual vow to serve the sick. And when they took that vow, they were pinned with a medal. It was a Maltese cross at the time, and it symbolized a medal of excellence. So Nightingale recognized this time and thought that also pinning her nursing students with that same medal of excellence, along with the vow to serve the sick, that was her idea and what she brought to modern day nursing. Now that might be an interesting historical story, but what I find most interesting is how prophetic Florence Nightingale was and how ahead of her time she was. In the 1880s, she actually wrote, I quote, that it would take 100 to 150 years before educated and experienced nurses would arrive to change the healthcare system. If you do the math, that 100 to 150 years is now. Do you recognize, graduates, that you are that generation of 21st century Nightingales, and that you've entered a time where you can transform healthcare and you can carry forth Nightingale's vision to create that healthier world? To me, that's very humbling, and it's also very powerful. So it's our hope as a nursing faculty today that we have an opportunity to pin you with that medal of excellence, and we hope that as you receive that pin, that you're going to be mindful of all those who have gone on before you, that you will commit to serving others and facilitating health and healing in all those that you serve. We hope that you're mindful of all of the courage of people before you, and that you express all of the gratitude for the people that have helped you reach this point in your lives. We're happy for you. We're excited. This is one of our favorite days as nursing faculty, staff, and administration. As faculty, most who aren't teaching right now are here on the stage. We want you to know that we have shared with you, nursing graduates, the art and the science of nursing as we know it, and we are now turning that over to you, that you can share your gifts and your healing influence with others. Congratulations on this accomplishment. Today, our program will follow as outlined. We have 2 student speakers. We're always excited to hear from our students. The first speaker, Kaylee Windsor, and she'll be followed by Josh Bentley. After that, we will have a faculty speaker, that's Cheryl Armstrong, and then we'll proceed with the pinning. Kaylee?
I told Josh to break a leg when he speaks, and he said, well, if I do, there's lots of nurses here. And I know I took an oral communications class, but no matter how many speeches we gave in class, it couldn't have prepared me for this. We started off wide-eyed and well-rested, anxious and a little afraid. All of us came from different backgrounds, levels of education, and clinical experience. We began bonding and forming study groups, quickly realizing that high school drama isn't limited to high school. Soon we got into the hang of things, navigating our own way, anticipating when each quiz or test was. We had our first series of final exams, nervous as we were, and when we came out successful, we gained confidence in ourselves, only to have it smashed and regained all over again in the semesters to come. On came fundamentals and pharmacology, along with our first clinicals. We learned to take vital signs and complete head-to-toe assessments, nervous that we were doing it wrong. Our teachers encouraged and complimented us, even though we could use some improvement. Their certainty in us grew to confidence in ourselves. We went into finals a little smarter and a little more courageous, but apprehensive nonetheless. I remember sitting in my car outside of my children's school, waiting for the bell to ring. It was a day or 2 after we had taken finals for second semester, and I just received texts from fellow classmates spreading the word that final grades had been posted. Up until that point, I'd never been as terrified about a grade. I was never so close to failing a class before. My hands shook as I checked my grades on my cell phone, waiting for my fate to be told. I came out victorious, giving thanks to my Heavenly Father for His hand in my achievement, going on to offer thanks many more countless times throughout school. We were constantly checking our grades. You could almost say we were neurotic about it. I can't imagine how much emotion from each of the other students came as a result of checking grades. Third semester was met with mental health and med-surg. Our clinicals were slightly more intense, and we got to see, do, and experience more. We were exposed to various mental health facilities, tending to those who were unable to do so for themselves on such a heart-wrenching level. At one point or another, some of us believed we should also be patients there, thinking we were crazy for signing up for nursing school, nearing the breaking point. Time passing by faster than we realized, on to finals we marched. Fourth semester brought another round of med-surg, but also obstetrics, an unfamiliar and uneasy subject for many. Our teacher made it comfortable to talk about and helped us gain an understanding of the basics. Med-surg became increasingly harder, and so were our clinicals. Although more difficult, we felt a greater sense of trust was extended to us, and we were allowed to be more hands-on than ever before up until this point. Another grapple with finals proved us successful, and many of us, especially me, found it hard to believe that we would be entering the final stretch of nursing school. Come fifth semester, exhaustion was a regular thing for us, kept at bay by consuming mass amounts of energy drinks and sugar. Despite innumerable rock stars or monsters, many were victim to falling asleep in class, with pictures of unsuspecting nappers taken in jest to show just how tired we were. Met by a whirlwind of capstones, classes, rotations at primary children's, and community volunteer hours, we worked harder than we ever had before, and our expectations were greater as well. We were granted an active role in patient care, and it was common to hear us sharing stories about all the new or interesting things we were able to take part in. Besides the hardest final of our schooling, we were met with one last test before gaining the title of a graduate. It was a struggle for many, but at last we had done it. Throughout our journey, some got divorced, some got married, and some just stayed awesome. Our families all sacrificed in one way or another, many of us feeling guilty for the time we should have been spending with them, but hours upon end were spent studying instead. Loads of dishes, mountains of undone laundry, yard work, and errands piling up to be left for another day or to be done by someone else. Children begged for our attention, and their homework was sacrificed, held at the mercy of our own. To the husbands and wives, parents, children, brothers and sisters, and the countless others, the hands that helped we are forever indebted to, for we wouldn't be here today without you. To our teachers and clinical instructors, who many times stayed late to give special attention to a struggling student, who were used as a scapegoat to blame when we couldn't handle the pressure, who sacrificed their time and patience with us as we continually pushed them to their limits as we thought we were at our limits, who thought outside the box to help us to cram knowledge into what little space we felt we had left in our brains, who helped impress upon us what it was like to be a nurse, not just as a title or to go through the motions, but to really care and advocate for our patients. Words cannot express our gratitude. We may not always remember what you said to us or the details of what was taught, but we will always remember the way you made us feel, exemplifying what tender moments we would have with our patients and teaching us how to care. Orrin Hatch said, "There's a good reason they call these ceremonies commencement exercises. Graduation is not the end, it's the beginning." I won't pretend like I know what the future holds for any of us, but I do know that today, right here, our future begins. Though in separate directions we go, our purpose stays the same. Become the nurses we so desperately desired and hungered for from the beginning. Graduates, I ask that when you leave today, don't forget why you came.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow graduates, nurses, we did it. We passed. Congratulations. We have learned so much and accomplished so much more. As I started thinking about what I was going to write and the things I learned in nursing school, and as I procrastinated writing this, the thing that first came to mind was time management skills that I developed in order to survive some of the often brutal testing schedules. I thought about the pages and pages of notes I'd reviewed, and had they not been in my own handwriting, I would have sworn that I hadn't been in that class and I hadn't taken those notes. As I thought about the stresses of testing and the joy I felt when we finally got the results, sometimes that felt like a really long time. I thought about the material we memorized, the bones, the muscles, the nerves, the parts of the brain, the different organs, the diseases, both physical and mental, and the drugs, and indications, and contraindications, and side effects, and administration, and dosages, and routes, and teaching, and especially the black box warnings. I've reflected on the wonderful clinical experiences, the opportunities to learn and to be tried. From the mundane and often less pleasant tasks, we know what we're talking about, such as brief changes and chuck changes and those kind of things, to the more intense, like life-saving CPR. These experiences have helped solidify in my mind that I was in the right field, and this is where I wanted to be. I think the thing that most impressed me and stood out in my mind was that we need to learn patient care. And these are individuals. We need to learn compassion and kindness and care. This may be a job for us, but to them, this is their life. In a quote from John Haddock from the University of North Carolina, he said, "In a world of rapidly diminishing borders and indistinct cultural norms, it is imperative that nurses discover what's important to each patient when developing a proper plan of care. Establishing a strong, trusting foundation through meaningful dialogue and interaction is vital. Answers will not always be clear, but we must be willing to learn and be humble enough to seek correct information. When patients experience efforts to be understood, the personal door may be opened ever so slightly, and we must recognize and seize that moment. And he says, if I can truly get to know my patients, I can care and deliver culturally competent care. If we can do that same thing, truly get to know our patients, we can deliver the care they need. We nurses are the ones who make the difference. We see the patients day to day. We see them as individuals and not numbers. We see the changes. We see how they change, how their vital signs change when we give them medications. We interact with them, and we know what needs to be done. Constant attention by a good nurse may be just as important as a major operation by a surgeon. We have what it takes to be good nurses. Let us go and do good and become good nurses. Make a good name for ourselves and for our school. Again, congratulations.
As Julie stated, one of the most noteworthy nurses in history is Florence Nightingale. I'm going to speak more about her, this angel of the Crimea, who is broadly acknowledged and revered as a pioneer of modern nursing. Nightingale was born on May 12, 1820, in Florence, Italy, and was named after the city of her birth. She was born into a wealthy upper-class family at a time when women of her status were expected to focus solely on marriage and childbearing. However, her father had progressive social views and provided his daughter with a well-rounded education that included mathematics, history, and philosophy. She also became proficient in 5 languages. Several experiences in her early years led her to devote her life to the service of others. Initially, her service consisted of visiting the poor, but she soon became very interested in looking after those who were ill. She visited hospitals in London and around the country to investigate possible occupations for women. However, at the time, nursing was seen as employment that needed neither study nor intelligence, and nursing was considered an occupation of ill repute. Seeking a career in nursing went against her family's wishes and tradition. However, Nightingale felt strongly about her decision. She began visiting hospitals in 1844 with extensive training in Egypt, Germany, and France. She then moved to London, where she served as superintendent of a home for invalid gentlewomen. During that time, she heard about the suffering of the sick and wounded in English camps in Turkey during the Crimean War. In response, Nightingale offered her services to the war and was able to have unlimited support from the British government. Nightingale, along with 38 other women, left for Turkey to provide aid. In her journal, she wrote that she was appalled by the living conditions of the sick and injured soldiers residing in the military hospital. There was no fresh water, food, or clean clothing for the wounded. It was not surprising that in Army hospitals, war wounds only accounted for 1/6 of the deaths. The majority of victims succumbed to diseases such as typhus, cholera, and dysentery. Within a few short months, Nightingale and her team of nurses were able to create changes that brought the hospital into much better order. She was on her feet for 20 hours a day and became famous for her dedication to the welfare of her patients. She earned the nickname Lady of the Lamp, as she carried a lamp to light her way as she checked on the wounded and ill throughout the night. More significantly, Nightingale collected data while striving to improve sanitary conditions. These early pioneering efforts in research and statistics showed that with an improvement of sanitary methods, death rates among patients fell by 2/3. Soon the improvements that she made in one military hospital spread throughout Great Britain and the world. By her death in 1910, at the age of 90, Nightingale had started her own nursing school, revolutionized patient care, and initiated the transformation of nursing into a respectable and important profession. The image of Florence with lamp in hand, held aloft to light the way, revealing unmet needs, deeply determined, guided by both passion and science, is one that remains relevant to nursing today. Each of you can make your own unique contribution to healthcare. Just as Florence Nightingale brought enlightenment to the profession of nursing in the 19th century, the passing of the candlelight is symbolic of the passing of knowledge from one generation to the next. In the candlelighting portion of our pinning ceremony, nursing students honor the dedication of Nurse Nightingale and symbolically promise to carry on her legacy. The candlelighting and traditional pledge reinforce the ideals for which she stood. Congratulations to you all, and keep the light burning bright.
We want to thank our faculty speaker and our student speakers. It's always enlightening to hear the viewpoints from our student speakers, and we appreciate them because it's because of you that we're all here. So we're ready to now proceed with the pinning portion of the ceremony. Let me give you a few directions. So we'll take about 4 students at a time. You're going to walk over here to the right side of the stage. You should have a card with your name. Once your name is read, you will then walk up here onto the stage, and you'll see there are some marks right there. You're going to stand there while you're pinned and smile, because Stacy Aiken will be photographing you at that point in time. Then you will receive your candle, and you're going to come across here, and we have Erin back here who's going to help place you for the actual lighting of the candles. This might be the last time also that you get direction from your favorite nursing administrative assistant. That would be Joelle. So we are now ready to proceed with pinning.
Kaylee Windsor. Josh Bentley. Mackenzie Bath. Kelsey Jones. Aaron Figerson. Ashley Hansing. Joshua Michael Lane, the first. James Breeze. Tricia Ann Merrill. Chanel Lee Sim. Laura Slaw. Brittany King. Molly Johnson. Ryan Adcock. Douglas Beckstrand. Rachel Reynolds. Yvonne Walsh Garcia. Chantel Garcia. Heather Jolly. Joshua Watson. Jordan DeGraw. Taylor DeGraw. Caitlin Ellerman. Jordan Rydolph. Chelsea Dean. Carolina. So. Robin Rathall. Tony Joe Wadsworth. Sorry, Tori. No relation. J.C. Young. Jessica Moffett. Channing Egley. Kendall Neal. Kristen Johnson. Keyshawn Nelson. Alicia Walker. Bailey Cheyenne Newland. Bryce Blackman. Victor Sines. Carrie Engel. Crystal Carlson. Elena Rebecca Jennings. Weston Gledhill. Chelsea Nelson.
At this time, we are going to recite the nursing pledge. I invite anyone in the audience who is a nurse and would like to renew their pledge to stand and recite it with us. Go ahead, stand up. Okay, raise your right hand and read along with me. Okay, you got it. One last instruction. All right. I solemnly pledge before God and in the presence of this assembly to faithfully practice my profession of nursing. I will do all in my power to make and maintain the highest standard and practice my profession. I will hold in confidence all personal matters committed to keeping in the practice of my calling. I will devote myself to the welfare of my patients, my families, and my community. I will endeavor to fulfill my rights and privileges as a good citizen and take my share of responsibility in promoting the health and welfare of my community. I will constantly endeavor to increase my knowledge and skills in nursing and to use them wisely. I will zealously seek to nurse those who are ill, whoever they may be, and whenever they are in need. I will be active in assisting others in safeguarding and promoting the health and happiness of mankind.
To the graduating class of April 2014, we congratulate you and we welcome you to the nursing profession. Congratulations. This concludes our pinning and candlelighting ceremony. You now have a few minutes to spend some time with your graduates. If you want to go outside, take some pictures. We will need, graduation will begin at 5:30, at which time graduates will need you in the back along with your caps, and we'll get you lined up for the actual graduation ceremonies. So if there's anyone who wants to come up and take a picture while they're all still together, please do, and then we will allow the students some time with their families. Thank you.